Values and vision. Doing the right thing for the right reason. 157 of 157. The 7 deadly sins according to Mahatma Gandhi are wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce, business, without morality, ethics, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, and politics without principle. When a child is born, who rejoices? The parents, relatives, and friends. But who cries? The child. However, when we die, it should be the other way round. We should be rejoicing and have the satisfaction that we made a contribution to the world and left the world a little better place than we found it. Let the world cry that it has lost a good soul and become poorer. We were not just takers, we were also givers. Hindu philosophy believes that when good people pass away, they don't die, they only depart. Their names live on forever through their good deeds. Think of the last time you heard a eulogy. As people pay their respects, the most common things talked about are the little acts of kindness performed by the person during his lifetime. Little acts of kindness don't go unnoticed. In fact, they are remembered a lot more after a person is gone. That is the time people realize how much those little acts of kindness meant to them. No person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what he gave. Calvin Coolidge. How do we judge our value system? How do we put our value system to the test? I believe there are only 2 tests. The ultimate test is called the Mama test. Whenever you are doing, whatever you are doing, wherever and with whomever, at home or at work, alone or with someone, if values are in question, ask yourself, if my mama were to see me doing what I am doing right now, would she be proud of me and say, "Attaboy"? Or would she hang her head in shame? Your values would be clarified rather quickly. If you passed the Mama test and failed all other tests, you have passed. If you failed the Mama test and passed all other tests, you have failed. This is worth repeating. Think about it. Whenever you need value clarification, ask yourself, if my mama were to see me doing whatever I am doing, would she be proud of me and say, "Attaboy"? Or would she hang her head in shame? The clouds will clear rather quickly and you will get your answers easily. If the Mama test doesn't do it, I have another test called the Baba test. Whenever you are doing, whatever you are doing, wherever and with whomever, at home or at work, alone or with someone, if values are in question, ask yourself, if my children were to see me doing what I am doing right now, would I want them to see it, or would I be embarrassed? Again, the clouds will clear rather quickly and you will get your answers. If these 2 tests don't clarify a person's values, then that person is no longer a human being and has no conscience left. How does our value system change? With constant exposure, what is intolerable becomes acceptable and translates into involvement. And all through the transition process, justification keeps taking place. 158 of 158. Times are changing. We talk of the younger generation. Where will they end? What about their value system? Before we point a finger at them, let's evaluate who is to blame. We ought to remember that values and virtues are not hereditary, they are learnt. We need to get our priorities right. What we do for a living versus what we do with a living. Living. Money is not the payoff for every kind of work. Parents bring up the children with no paycheck in mind. Many people have lots of money but they are very poor. Our objective ought to be both to have money and be rich. When money talks, it doesn't always talk sense and truth remains silent. The most unfortunate part of life is when people plan to get money without earning it. It is easier to make money and harder to keep it. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Helen Keller. Hard work teaches a person the value of money. That is why it is important that parents teach their children this lesson. I feel sorry for the younger generation who inherits money without value. Without lessons and guidance, they often equate everything with money. They think everything can be bought and sold. Of course, this is not true. People who have values have no price tag and neither do they value themselves. It is priceless character. The movie Indecent Proposal brings out the point rather clearly. One act of adultery was worth a quick $1 million. People want to be an overnight success at the cost of their conscience, and it still doesn't work. Because true values are priceless. The moment a price is set on values, the values lose their value. No possible gain can make up for that loss. It is good to have money and the things it can buy, but in the process of acquiring money, we don't want to lose the things that money can't buy. Money can only buy what money can buy. And in fact, the most precious things are those that money just can't buy. What money won't buy? The most precious things in life money just can't buy. It is not uncommon to hear that everyone has a price. People who talk that language are really up for sale themselves. People with character, integrity and the right values are not for sale. Money will buy, diamonds suit amusements but not happiness. Diamonds suit a bed but not sleep. Diamonds suit books but not wisdom. Diamonds suit a clock but not more time. Diamonds suit companions but not friends. Diamonds suit finery but not beauty. Diamonds suit food but not appetite. Diamonds suit a house but not a home. 159 of 159. Diamonds suit medicine but not health. Diamonds suit a ring but not a marriage. 160 of 160. There are two kinds of tragedies in life. 1. Not getting what we want. A creed for those who have suffered. I asked God for strength, that I might achieve. I was made weak, that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked for health, that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity, that I might do better things. I asked for riches, that I might be happy. I was given poverty, that I might be wise. I asked for power, that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness, that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things, that I might enjoy life. I was given life, that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing I asked for, but everything I had hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I, among all men, am most richly blessed. Anonymous. 2. Getting what we want. When our value system is not clear, getting what we want can be a bigger tragedy. The story of King Midas says it all. The Midas touch. We all know the story of the greedy king named Midas. He had a lot of gold, and the more he had, the more he wanted. He stored all the gold in his vaults and used to spend time every day counting it. One day while he was counting, a stranger came from nowhere and said he would grant him a wish. The king was delighted and said, "I would like everything I touch to turn to gold." The stranger asked the king, "Are you sure?" The king replied, "Yes." So the stranger said, "Starting tomorrow morning with the sun rays you will get the golden touch." The king thought he must be dreaming, this couldn't be true. But the next day when he woke up, he touched the bed, his clothes, and everything turned to gold. He looked out of the window and saw his daughter playing in the garden. He decided to give her a surprise and thought she would be happy. But before he went to the garden he decided to read a book. The moment he touched it, it turned into gold and he couldn't read it. Then he sat to have breakfast and the moment he touched the fruit and the glass of water, they turned to gold. He was getting hungry and he said to himself, "I can't eat and 161 of 161. Drink gold." Just about that time his daughter came running and he hugged her and she turned into a gold statue. There were no more smiles left. The king bowed his head and started crying. The stranger who gave the wish came again and asked the king if he was happy with his golden touch. The king said he was the most miserable man. The stranger asked, "What would you rather have, your food and loving daughter or lumps of gold and her golden statue?" The king cried and asked for forgiveness. He said, "I will give up all my gold. Please give me my daughter back because without her I have lost everything worth having." The stranger said to the king, "You have become wiser than before," and he reversed the spell. He got his daughter back in his arms and the king learned a lesson that he never forget for the rest of his life. What is the moral of the story? 1. Distorted values lead to tragedy. 2. Sometimes getting what you want may be a bigger tragedy than not getting what you want. 3. Unlike the game of soccer where players can be substituted, the game of life allows no substitutions or replays. We may not get a second chance to reverse our tragedies, as the king did. How would you like to be remembered? About 100 years ago, a man looked at the morning newspaper and to his surprise and horror, read his name in the obituary column. The newspapers had reported the death of the wrong person by mistake. His first response was shock. Am I here or there? When he regained his composure, his second thought was to find out what people had said about him. The obituary read, "Dynamite King dies." And also, he was the merchant of death. This man was the inventor of dynamite and when he read the words, "merchant of death," he asked himself a question, is this how I am going to be remembered? He got in touch with his feelings and decided that this was not the way he wanted to be remembered. From that day on, he started working toward peace. His name was Alfred Nobel and he is remembered today by the Great Nobel Prize. Just as Alfred Nobel got in touch with his feelings and redefined his values, we should step back and do the same. What is your legacy? How would you like to be remembered? Will you be spoken well of? Will you be remembered with love and respect? Will you be missed? It is the little things that make a big difference. There was a man taking a morning walk at the beach. He saw that along with the morning tide came hundreds of starfish and when the tide receded, they were left behind and with the morning sun rays, they would die. The tide was fresh and the starfish were alive. The man took a few steps, picked one and threw it into the water. He did that repeatedly. Right behind him there was another person who couldn't understand what this man was doing. He caught up with him and asked, "What are you doing? There are hundreds of starfish. How many can you help? What difference does it make?" This man did not reply, took 2 more steps, picked up another one, threw it into the water, and said, "It makes a difference to this one. 162 of 162. What difference are we making? Big or small, it does not matter. If everyone made a small difference, we'd end up with a big difference, wouldn't we? Is your life worth saving? A boy was drowning in a river and he shouted for help. A man passing by jumped in the river and saved the boy's life. As the man was leaving, the boy said, "Thank you." The man asked, "For what?" The boy replied, "For saving my life." The man looked into the boy's eyes and said, "Make sure when you grow up that your life was worth saving. It is time to think." This is a wake-up call. Success without fulfillment is meaningless. Unless there is a sense of meaning and purpose, life is empty and unhappy regardless of how much prestige, money or degrees a person has. Success begins with developing your personal success philosophy about your health, money, family, society and values. Without a clearly defined purpose and a philosophy to guide you, life is guided by fantasies. If people have not defined a philosophy of success, they have actually defined a philosophy of failure by default. Sometimes we overlook the things that ought not to be overlooked and don't overlook the things that ought to be overlooked. An integral part of a good value system is commitment. Commitment. When our value system is clear, it becomes a lot easier to make decisions and commitments. Example, you can't make a commitment to your country by selling secrets to the enemy. You can't keep a friend by revealing to others what he told you in confidence. You can't keep a commitment to a job by trying to do as little as possible. Unkept commitments result in dishonest behavior. I wonder how any relationship, regardless of whether personal or professional, would work if people said something to the effect, "Diamond suit, I will try but I can't commit." "Diamond suit, I will do it but don't count on me." "Diamond suit, I will be there if I can, but don't get your hopes up." "Diamond suit, I will be there, so long as you do well." "Diamond suit, I will be there so long as you are in good health." "Diamond suit, I will stick with you till I find something better." If the following relationships cannot count and depend on one another, I wonder how anything would ever work in this world. Parent, child, husband, wife, student, teacher, customer, salesman, employer, employee, friend, friend. 163 of 163. The uncertainty could lead to insanity. Our strongest relationships are tied together with the invisible something called commitment. Today, breaking a promise is considered no big deal. All relationships go sour without commitment. Lack of commitment would destabilize relationships and lead to insecurity. No one would know where they stand with each other. Commitment implies 1. Dependability. 2. Reliability. 3. Predictability. 4. Consistency. 5. Caring. 6. Empathy. 7. A sense of duty. 8. Sincerity. 9. Character. 10. Integrity. 11. Loyalty. If one of these ingredients is missing, commitment loses strength. When a person makes a commitment to someone, he is really saying, "You can count on me no matter what, and I will be there when you need me." Unconditional commitment says, "My behavior is predictable in an unpredictable future." What makes the future unpredictable? Diamond suit changes in your life and circumstances. Diamond suit changes in my life and circumstances. Diamond suit changes in the external conditions. Regardless of the uncertainty, commitment says, "You can count on me." A person who makes a commitment is willing to give up a lot. For what? The answer is pretty clear. The rewards can be priceless. Commitment says 1. I am willing to sacrifice because I care. 2. I am a person of integrity and you can trust me. 3. I will not let you down. 4. Despite pain, I will still be there. 5. I will not let you down in good times or in bad times. Commitment is not like a legal contract which is enforceable. Its foundation is not a signed piece of paper but character, integrity, and empathy. Commitment does not mean sticking to something when a person has no choice. It means sticking in spite of choices. Without the above ingredients, no one would make a serious long-lasting commitment to others. 164 of 164. What makes a commitment worth keeping? It brings diamond suit predictability, diamond suit security, diamond suit personal growth, diamond suit strong relationships between individuals and community, diamond suit lasting personal and professional relationships. Even gangsters and crooks are looking for committed supporters. Commitment creates a patch of green in a vast jungle. We call this security in an insecure world. Keeping commitments is worth the effort. Commitment means surrendering our personal wants for another person's needs. Remember and keep in mind, needs are stronger than wants. Commitments act as a glue which bonds relationships. Commitment implies sacrificing fun and willingness to accept sorrow. For example, 1. Commitment to friendship implies maintaining confidentiality. 2. Commitment to customer implies giving good service. 3. Commitment to marriage implies fidelity. 4. Commitment to decency implies staying away from vulgarity. 5. Commitment to patriotism implies sacrifice. 5. Commitment to job implies integrity. 6. Commitment to community implies responsibility. Commitment is a sign of maturity. Commitment means not quitting at the first option or sign of problems. Individuals with strong commitments build strong communities. Relationships are based on commitment, not just on closeness and intimacy. A person can be intimate and close and yet not be committed. With changing values, it is even considered good to have uncommitted relationships. Many people are not willing to make commitments because they feel they are not ready for it. However, in the meantime, for years they keep sharing and using anything and everything of one another. Their pretext is, we are still checking out each other before we commit. What are they checking out that they haven't already checked out in a few days or a few months or a few years? In my opinion, they are selfish parasites who are trying to get as much as possible while the going is good. They are only takers who are a liability to society. Many people confuse commitment with confinement. Relationships don't last because of passion and love but because of commitment and empathy. A commitment implies putting the other person's needs ahead of one's own. Sometimes good people with the best intentions are faced with conflicting commitments. For instance, 1. A policeman is committed to caring for his wife who is on her deathbed. But all of a sudden he gets an emergency call to handle a situation at the other end of town where 10 lives are at stake. What does he do? 2. A surgeon is looking forward to his daughter's graduation. He is committed to this once-in-a-lifetime event. With all guests at the function, 20 minutes before the ceremony, 165 of 165. He gets an emergency call to operate on an accident victim to save his life. What choice does he have? Choosing one does not mean lack of commitment to the other. The process of making a choice between the two commitments would involve priority, responsibility and duty. Not keeping one over the other would not make the person feel guilty. Probably what the surgeon feels like doing is attending his daughter's graduation. It doesn't matter what he feels like. Commitment involves the 11 elements we talked about before, whether we feel like it or not. Keeping commitment shows strength of character. It takes subordinating our desires to the other person's needs but not his whims and fancies. Needs are essential, whereas desires are infinite. And in case of conflict of needs, one has to prioritize responsibilities and duties. In a relationship such as a marriage, two people are committed to each other. Supposing one develops cancer a year after? Should one feel cheated? Deprived? Resentful? Blame the other person for ruining her life? That is not commitment. That is just selfishness. The most painful part of commitment is accepting a breach when it happens. The commitment goes on if the breach results from an error of omission. However, it needs evaluation if it is a result of commission. Breach of omission can be handled with compassion and forgiveness. Whereas the breach of commission says, you cheat me once, shame on you. You cheat me twice, shame on me. Either way, for one's own self-interest, the answer is forgiveness. As they say, the wounds get healed but the scars remain. Commitments can rarely be kept without forgiveness. For example, a child may betray his parents' trust by lying or cheating. People avoid making commitments because many times they are living for today. What is our greatest commitment? What if we made a commitment that is wrong or unethical inadvertently, which totally goes against our values and conscience? That is the time to reevaluate whether or not to go forward. Commitment to values. Loyalties cannot be bought, they are earned. And to whom do we owe loyalties? Is it individuals or organizations? The answer is none of them. We owe loyalties to values. Where the value system is conflicting, people cannot live in the same home, they cannot work in the same organization. When a person makes a commitment of loyalty to either an individual or an organization, what is he really saying? He is saying, I stand by you because I believe in what you believe in. What if the person I am committed to, be it a leader, spouse, employee becomes a spy for an enemy country? Do I continue my support because I committed earlier? Absolutely not. I am not committed to support unethical and illegal behavior. Unkept commitments lead to diamond suit broken homes, diamond suit abandoned children, diamond suit poor relationships, diamond suit high stress levels. 166 of 166. Diamond suit guilt, diamond suit unfulfilled life, diamond suit loss of business, diamond suit isolation, diamond suit depression. Make a commitment and stay committed. Ethics. Bad circumstances are not excuses for making bad choices and leading poor lives. Values and ethics are not just designed for good times, but also to prevent bad times. They are like the laws of the land, which you need when people are good and you need even more to protect them from the bad. Most choices are not ethical choices. For example, what clothes to buy or what TV to get are personal choices based on what is more appropriate. They are not ethical choices. For some people, the right choice may be Panasonic instead of Sony for affordability. Personal choices are subjective, not objective, and even though these are not ethical issues, they certainly involve responsibility. Ethical choices reflect objectivity between right and wrong. That is why our conscience hurts when making an unethical choice and does not hurt when making a wrong personal choice. Choices are personal because the person makes it, but the rightness or wrongness does not change from person to person. Just like in a math test, who takes it and what answer they give varies from person to person, but what makes it right is not the choice, but the independence of the correct answer. Of course, ethical choices are not always like making choices in math, just like being a nice person is not the same thing as being a good and ethical person. A person could be socially nice yet be a cheat and a liar. That makes him nice yet unethical. Niceness reflects social acceptability. Nice does not mean good. In fact, most of our choices today are based on 1. Our desire for convenience, comfort, and pleasure. 2. Our feeling, do what feels good, it is good for you. The criteria is to feel good rather than doing what is responsible. 3. Social fads and ads, everyone else is doing it, so should I. It is a common belief that ethics and ethical choices are confusing. The big question is to who? Only to those with unclear values. Situational ethics. Those who believe that ethics cannot be generalized but vary with every situation, come up with justification and keep changing their ethics from situation to situation, and person to person. This is called situational ethics. This is ethics of conveniences rather than conviction. Benchmarks 167 of 167. Why do we have standards? They are a measure. 1 meter in Europe is 1 meter in Asia. 1 kilogram of flour is 1 kilogram of flour wherever you go. People who do not want to adhere to any moral standards keep changing the definition of morality by saying nothing is right or wrong, your thinking makes it so. They put the onus on interpretation rather than on their behavior. They feel, my behavior is okay, your interpretation was messed up. For example, Hitler could have believed he was right. But the big question is, was he right? Giving money to the hungry for food is right, but at the same time giving money to buy drugs is not right. The generalization sets the benchmark, the exception is the situation. For example, murder is wrong. That is a general statement and a generalized truth and ethical standard. Unless it is in self-defense. This doesn't say that it is okay to murder if the weather is good or if you feel like it. A person's interests, other than his job, tells much about him. The way a person spends his leisure time reflects on his performance at work. A drug addict, if running short of money, would be more likely to embezzle than a person who is not an addict. Our standard of ethics is revealed by the advisors we hire, the suppliers we pick, and the buyers we deal with. Opinions may vary from culture to culture. But values such as fairness, justice, integrity, and commitment are universal and eternal. They have nothing to do with culture. Never has there been a time when society has not respected courage over cowardice. Ethics and justice involve the following: diamond suit empathy, diamond suit fairness, diamond suit compassion for the injured, diamond suit the larger interest of society. Just because more people agree on something doesn't make it right. For example, if 10 perverts agree on a sadistic act to hurt an innocent, does that make it right? No. Just like the laws of gravity, ethics are pretty universal. Just as freedom without discipline leads to destruction, similarly, society without a set of principles destroys itself. If values were so subjective, no criminals should be in jail. Why have a police force? A society becomes good or bad, based on the ethical values of individuals. And what gives society its strength is ethical values. Some people enjoy taking drugs, it makes them feel good. Does that make it good? People who believe in the theory of relativity actually get stuck in their own paradox. They say, everything is relative. That is the absolute truth. It is self-contradictory. The distinction between right and wrong, dishonesty and honesty presupposes their existence. Changing terminology does not change the meaning. Just like changing the labels does not change the contents. People are changing moral values by giving new names, and it is glamorized by the media. Liars are called extroverts with an imagination. When Michael Sowan, the president of Columbia University, resigned in 1993, a reporter asked him if there was any task left incomplete. Yes, replied Gowan. It sounds complacent, but there is really only one. He referred to the lack of instructions in ethics. The average undergraduate, however, gets no training in these areas. Most educators are afraid to touch the subject. Ethics are usually left to be addressed by parents. The result is that in this country young people who need moral and ethical 168 of 168 training more than ever are getting less than ever. Morals and ethics are not a religion. They are logical, sensible principles of good conduct that we need for a peaceful society. Adapted from John Beckley, Isn't It Time to Wake Up? In the best of Bits, U Pieces, Economics Press, Fairfield, N.J., 1994, p. 129. 169 of 169. Ethics and legality. Most will agree that legality and ethics are not the same thing. What may be ethical may or may not be legal and vice versa. For example, 1. An insurance salesperson more concerned with getting a larger commission as opposed to selling the most suitable policy sells the wrong kind of policy to a prospective client. This may be legal but unethical. 2. A young executive is driving over the speed limit, trying to reach the hospital with his bleeding child in the back seat of his car. Hardly anyone would question the ethics of breaking the law in this situation. It would be unethical not to get medical help to save the kid's life, even if it meant breaking the law. Legality establishes minimum standards, whereas ethics and values go beyond those standards. Ethics and values are about fairness and justice. It is not about pleasing or displeasing people. It is about respecting people's needs and rights. Purpose of life. There are many kinds of desire. Desire for success, desire to do one's duty even at the cost of pleasure. Desire for purpose. Something worth dying for which gives meaning to life. What good is it if you gain the whole world and lose your conscience? A purposeless life is a living death. What is your purpose? Do you have one? Purpose brings passion. Find or create a purpose and then pursue it with passion and perseverance. Every day we need to ask ourselves the question, am I getting any closer to my purpose in life? Am I making this a better place to live? If the answer is no, then I have just wasted a day of my life. Life will reward us in proportion to our contribution. The earlier we find a purpose in life, the better it is. It appears that the greatest challenge comes in the unending search for the purpose of life. Not only as an individual but for our families, organizations and country. Once our purpose and values are clear, conflicts between self-interest and social obligations find a moral balance between themselves. We become aware of when to take a stand. That is the time we start making the right decisions for long-term gain rather than making the wrong decisions for short-term gain. Wisdom and maturity lead to greater understanding of major issues. Study as if you were to live forever. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Mahatma Gandhi. We cannot help ourselves without helping others. We cannot enrich our lives without enriching others. We cannot prosper without bringing prosperity to others. Nanette Cole, Spelman College. Jeanette Cole once said, "Show me a person who is content with mediocrity and I will show you a person destined for failure." Life is not a spectator sport. We cannot sit back 170 of 170 and watch things happen. We need to find a purpose in order to make life meaningful and then strive to achieve that purpose. 171 of 171. Living with a purpose. All of us are put on this planet for a purpose. We are part of a big picture. But very few people discover their purpose in life. Most of us just exist and keep counting our days rather than making our days count. Dr. Albert Einstein was once asked, "Why are we here?" He replied, "If the universe is an accident, we are accidents. But if there is meaning in the universe, there is meaning in us also." And he added, "The more I study physics, the more I am drawn towards metaphysics. I would rather fail in a cause that will ultimately succeed than succeed in a cause that would ultimately fail." Woodrow Wilson. Where do we learn our values from? I recently read the story of a high school values clarification class conducted by a teacher in Teaneck, New Jersey. A girl in the class had found a purse containing $1,000 and returned it to its owner. The teacher asked for the class's reaction. Every single one of her fellow students concluded the girl had been foolish. Most of the students contended that if someone was careless, they should be punished. When the teacher was asked what he said to the students, he responded, "Well, of course, I didn't say anything. If I come from the position of what is right and what is wrong, then I am not their counselor. I can't impose my views." If we do not learn values from our parents and teachers, who do we learn them from? And when they don't teach us values, we pick them up by default from television and other such undesirable sources. No wonder society gets messed up. The teacher, such as in the example above, is not only irresponsible with distorted values but does not deserve to be teaching our kids. Winning versus winners. What is the difference between winning and being a winner? Winning is an event. Being a winner is a spirit. Winners have kept winning in perspective based on their value system. 3 inspirational winners. 1. Olympics is a lifetime event. Lawrence Lemieux stopped racing in a yacht race to help a fellow competitor who was in trouble. The whole world was watching. His priority of safety for other people's lives was greater than his desire to win. Even though he did not win the race, he was a winner. He was honored by kings and queens all over the world because he kept the spirit of the Olympics alive. 2. I heard the story about Ruben Gonzalez when he was in the final match of the racquetball tournament. This was an important event and he was playing for the world title. In the final game at match point, Gonzalez played a super shot to save point. The referee and the linesman both confirmed that the shot was good and he was declared the winner. 172 of 172. Journal of the American Family Association, November-December 1991. But Gonzalez, after a little pause and hesitation, turned back to shake his opponent's hand and said, "The shot was faulty." As a result, he lost the serve and eventually, lost the match. Everyone was stunned. Who could imagine that a player with everything officially in his favor, with winning in his pocket, would disqualify himself and lose? When asked why he did it, Gonzalez replied, "It was the only thing to do in order to maintain my integrity." He lost the match, yet he was a winner. 3. A group of salespeople left town for a meeting and told their families they would be back home Friday evening for supper. But as with meetings the way they are, one thing leads to another and they didn't finish on time. They were delayed and had to catch a flight. They came to the airport just at the last minute, with tickets in hand, and ran, hoping the plane hadn't departed. While running, one of them hit a table and on the table was a fruit basket. All the fruit got scattered and bruised, but they didn't have time to stop. They kept running and made it to the plane, and all of them breathed a sigh of relief that they had made it, except one. He got in touch with his feelings, got up, said goodbye to his friends and went. What he saw made him glad that he came out. He went to the table that was knocked down, and behind the table was a 10-year-old blind girl who was selling the fruits to make a living. He said, "I hope we haven't ruined your day." He pulled out $10 from his pocket, handed it to her and said, "This will take care of the fruits," and he left. The girl couldn't see what was going on. All she could hear was the footsteps leaving. As the footsteps faded away, she shouted from behind, "Are you God?" He missed his flight, but was he a winner? You bet. One can be a winner without a medal, and one can be a loser with a medal if winning is not kept in perspective. Winning is an event. Being a winner is a spirit. 3 people ran a marathon besides hundreds of others. The medal was won by a 4th person. But does that mean that these 3 people were losers? Not at all. They all went into the race with different objectives. The first one went in to test his endurance, and he did and came out better than his expectations. The second wanted to improve on his previous performance, and he did. The third person had never run a marathon in his life. His objective was to complete the race and reach the finish line, and he did. What does that tell us? All 3 with different objectives met them, and they were all winners, regardless of who won the medal. As Mark Twain said, "It is better to deserve an honor and not have it than to have it and not deserve it." Because dignity is not in possessing but deserving. If winning is the only objective, a person may miss out on the internal rewards that come with winning. More important than winning is winning with honor and deserving to have won. It is better to lose honorably than to succeed with dishonesty. Losing honorably may signify lack of preparation, but dishonest winning signifies lack of character. The real test of a person's character is what he would or would not do if he knew he would never be found out. It is not worth compromising one's integrity and taking shortcuts to win. You may win a trophy, but knowing the truth, you can never be a happy person. More important than winning a trophy is being a good human being. 173 of 173. Winners live and work every day as if it were the last day. Because one of these days it is going to be the last, and we don't know which one it is going to be. When they leave as winners. There are some defeats more triumphant than victories. Michael de Montaigne. Winners are gracious. Remember, winners are gracious. They never brag about themselves, they respect and appreciate their team members and opponents. Many people know how to be successful. Very few know how to handle success. And there is always something about success that displeases some other people. Blueprint for Success. We conduct a 3-day seminar titled Blueprint for Success, globally for organizations in-house and open public programs. This is based on the philosophy, winners don't do different things, they do things differently. This philosophy came as a counter to the belief, winning is not everything, it is the only thing. This latter philosophy leads me to question the integrity of people who believe it to be true. It gives a distorted meaning to the words, killer instinct. If you ask a person on the street, what is the meaning of killer instinct, most responses would be, you have to win by hook or by crook. That is not killer instinct, that is pure dishonesty. To a good sportsman, killer instinct means 1. You don't put in 100% but you put in 200%. 2. To win, we must cash in on our opponent's mistake. Not cashing in on an opponent's mistake is a mistake. However, playing foul to win is not killer instinct, it is outright dishonesty. Unfair winning may give temporary success but certainly not fulfillment. The reality is that life is a competition and we have to compete. In fact, competition makes competitive people grow. The objective is to win, no question, but to win fairly, squarely, decently and by the rules. Winners leave a legacy. Great people leave something behind. Winners recognize that no one can make it alone. Even though champions get the medals, they realize that there are many people behind their success, without whom it would not have been possible. Their teachers, parents, coaches, fans, and mentors. One can never fully repay those who have helped winners. The only way to show a little gratitude is by helping those who are following. The following poem says it all. The Bridge Builder. An old man, going a lone highway, came, at the evening, cold and grey, to a chasm, vast, and deep, and wide, 174 of 174, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fears for him. But he turned, when safe on the other side, and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim, near, you are wasting strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again must pass this way. You have crossed the chasm, deep and wide, why build you the bridge at the eventide? The builder lifted his old grey head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth, whose feet must pass this way. This chasm, that has been naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He, too, must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building the bridge for him. Will Allen Dromgoole. Socrates taught Plato. Plato taught Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. Knowledge, had it not been passed along, would have died. Our greatest responsibility is to pass on a legacy that the coming generations can be proud of. Changing values, today's values. Change is inevitable. Whether we like it or not, it is going to be there. We have had enough of the me generation and situational ethics which have led to the loss of strong communities. There is sadness for getting caught rather than remorse for having done wrong. A survey of high school principals in 1958 asked this question: what are the main problems among your students? The answer was 1. Not doing homework. 2. Not respecting property, for example, throwing books. 3. Leaving lights on and doors and windows open. 4. Throwing spitballs in class. 5. Running through the halls. The same survey question was asked 30 years, one generation, later, in 1988. The answers were startlingly different. Here are the main problems of today's high school students. 1. Abortion. 2. AIDS. 3. Rape 175 of 175. 4. Drugs. 5. Fear of violent death, murder, guns, and knives in school. Try not to be a man of success but rather try to be a man of value. Albert Einstein. Smoking Choices by Peter Kreeft, pp. 1a2. Old values are not obsolete. Values such as responsibility, integrity, commitment, and patriotism are considered old by some. These may be old values, but they are certainly not obsolete. They have stood the test of time and will be here forever. These values have the same meaning in New York as in New Delhi or New Zealand. They are universal. I don't know of any time or culture in history which does not respect these values. Values are at an all-time low. In any society, basic immorality and injustice lead to despair. The greedy and inconsiderate who seek immoral pleasures must be stopped by those committed with values. We have strayed in the process of change. Any society that has lost its moral bearing is heading for disaster because all failures in history have been moral failures. More than half a century ago, America was in the middle of a wrenching depression. One-third of our nation's wealth vanished in a matter of months. Manufacturing declined 77%. One-fourth of the labor force was left idle. Many cities could not afford to keep schools open. 20% of New York schoolchildren were malnourished. At one point, 34 million men, women, and children were without any income at all. Yet in the depths of that hardship, with its soup kitchens, bank closings, and hunger, Franklin Roosevelt could tell the nation in a radio address, "Our difficulties, thank God, concern only material things." What is goodness? If we took a survey, asking people one question, "Are you good?" most people would respond, "Yes." Ask them, "What makes you good?" Responses will be, "Diamond suit, I don't cheat so I'm good." "Diamond suit, I don't lie so that makes me good." "Diamond suit, I don't steal, so I'm good." If you analyze the above rationales, there is not much substance in them. Just think of the person who says, "I don't cheat." Well, that only means that he is not a cheat. And the persons who say they don't lie and steal, only mean that they are not liars and thieves. But that doesn't make them good. A person becomes good when he actually does good rather than not doing wrong. A person of values would be one who has qualities such as fairness, compassion, courage, integrity, empathy, humility, loyalty and courtesy. What 176 of 176 makes a person with these qualities good person? It is because these are the kind of people who are dependable, stand up for justice, help the needy, make life better for themselves and those around them. To recognize goodness in all its forms, we need benchmarks and standards. Benchmarks can be ethical, or legal, or both. Ethical ones deal with right and wrong and all the gray areas that are in between, leading to what is good and more good and what is bad and more bad. Journal of the American Family Association, November, December 1991. How high are our ethical standards? What would you do in the following situations? 1. You know the taxi fare from your home to the airport is $64. You have paid it before, you know it is the correct fare. This time the taxi driver asks for $32. What would you do? 2. You are dining in a restaurant and you ordered 4 dishes and the waiter brought all 4 but by mistake, billed you for only 3. What would you do? 3. Your best friend is terminally ill and you are a life assurance salesman. They needed $100,000 worth of insurance. No one knows and no one can find out that your friend is dying. Would you write the policy? You cannot legislate ethics. What advice would you give to your children under the same circumstances? Is your behavior conforming with the advice you would give your children in the same situation? We start learning ethics right after birth and all through our lives. Can we change ethical behavior? Yes, we need ethical training. What affects ethics? Diamond suit greed, diamond suit fear, diamond suit pressure. Pressure to perform does not justify unethical acts. To be treated fairly is not the same thing as being treated equally. Ethics in business. Ethics or lack of it is evident in every profession. Greedy doctors do unnecessary procedures and surgery. Lawyers bend the truth. Parents and children alike tell white lies. Accountants and secretaries often falsify reports. When we cheat the people around us, most of all we are cheating ourselves. We are preparing ourselves to be cheated. Prosperity brings responsibility. We cannot build industry and infrastructure while destroying the moral and social fiber. The consequences of not following ethical behavior are the same as not following legal behavior. Some people will never be ethical. They think they are taking the easy way. In 177 of 177. Reality, it is the tougher way. Could you face yourself if you didn't do the right thing for your client? Could you brag to your kids and be proud and feel good? If you can't, then that behavior is unethical. A sense of humor and pride in oneself keep a person on course. Vision. Why don't people achieve excellence? The big reason is the lack of vision or limited vision. We need to dream beyond what is possible. Everything that we see today was a dream before it became reality. Live with enthusiasm, direction, and with a sense of purpose. Do you have a dream? What is your dream? Every day that you live, are you getting closer to your purpose? Get your advice from successful people and not from living failures who will tell you how to succeed. Where the vision is 1 year, cultivate flowers. Where the vision is 10 years, cultivate trees. Where the vision is eternity, cultivate people. Oriental saying. Remember, winners don't do different things, they do things differently.